Okay, Kevin House of Center Collision, and I've got a quote for you, and I want to see if anybody remembers this movie. Okay, you ready for this? Okay. If I lose my temper, you're totaled. Anybody know what it is? If I lose my temper, you're totaled. No. 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 The Breakfast Club. Emilio Estevez. So, which leads me to my topic today. A lot of people have been asking me about totaled vehicles. I've talked about repair processes and different things with dealing with insurance companies, but totaled vehicles is something we encounter a lot, but I imagine probably everybody in here doesn't encounter it very often. So I just wanted to talk about it and see if I could answer some questions and give you some explanations of why a car is totaled. So I thought I'd start with some basic ones. I brought a couple examples of totaled cars here. Some of them are kind of obvious, okay? You can pass that around. You might, this is just a sample car here. This is an example of a car that would obviously be totaled, okay? That car is totaled because it's a nice car, has value to it, but the damage is, if that was a real car, would be beyond the breaking point of what makes sense to fix a car. So some of them, like I said, they're really obvious. You can spot it a mile away. Other cars, there's another one here. This one's a little bit less obvious, but this car could be a total too. Really? That's right. The reason that car would be totaled because in that case it flipped upside down and it slid down the sidewalk and it scratched up the sides. And these are just examples, but these are examples of cars I've seen that don't always have the obvious damage to them where you'd say, oh yeah, that car is totaled. So another sample would be this one. Yeah, this one here. Now this one doesn't look too bad, right? It's like a pretty nice shiny car, but if you look closely, it's got frame damage, okay? All right, so, and then there's always, this is another one that you might think, well, okay, what the heck? That car looks pretty nice and shiny. What's wrong with that car? Looks pretty good underneath it, right? Anybody spot anything wrong with this car? I'm going to pass it around. Absolutely nothing, okay? Which is why the word, when people say, I use that word today, totaled, you're told, it's kind of a negative word. Would you agree? Okay, it's like, okay, that's not good. I know people, the first time I remember hearing that word when I was a kid, and this friend is telling me about they got in an accident, their truck flipped over, and their truck was totaled. I'm like, whoa, totaled? That doesn't sound good. What does it mean, or what? I mean, I guess it's wrecked. Is it beyond repair? I don't know. Had a lot of questions in my mind. So really, what it comes down to is value. The reason that I'm passing that red one around and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it is because if a car gets stolen, and I've seen this happen before, a car gets stolen, the person reports, say, hey, my car is stolen, reports it to his insurance company, the car is not found for a period of time, it's considered a total loss. That car has disappeared, the insurance company pays them off, the value of the car. Well, then suddenly the car appears. Okay, maybe it was stashed in somebody's garage or who knows what. So when I used to go to insurance auto auctions to buy cars that were totaled, we see these cars that have no damage, but they're totaled. And I was like, what the heck? How come there's nothing wrong with them? So a car can be totaled for a number of reasons. We all probably seen the obvious, the car is just smashed up. It's clear the car is just creamed, okay? Then it can be keyed, it can be frame damage, where you may not spot it from the outside of the car, but if you crawl underneath it and you start looking, replacing a frame on a car is not cheap. So, matter of fact, I got a good example of that at the end of my presentation. So, and the other one, like I said, is a car that's stolen, and all the value is, the car is still a whole car, but due to the circumstance, it was paid off by the insurance company, considered a total. So anyways, being a total is, when you say the word total, it's a real generic term. I think people naturally are going to take it, this is a really bad thing, and it is, but I guess what I'm saying is that it's so broad that if you say a car is totaled, it doesn't mean you're going to walk out and look at the car and see this smashed up ball of, metal that, used to be something you may not recognize. That's not it at all. So we see cars in our shop all the time with all different types of damage, and so I want to talk about what constitutes a totaled car. How does it get totaled? What do you do when a car is totaled? And do you want a car that's totaled? So, anyways, any questions so far? I know you like the little cars. So, people are naturally inclined to like the car they have. Most likely it's an expensive vehicle to some degree. I mean, cars aren't cheap, okay? Whether it's a couple $1,000 car or a $30,000 car, it means something to everybody, okay? So if your car is totaled, it's almost like, whoa, my car just got totaled. It's almost like a personal, yeah, it's like, this is serious, this is like, almost, matter of fact, I always, when I hear this, I already know I gotta tread lightly. When somebody refers their car as a he or she, it's like they really love their vehicle, and it happens a lot. So okay, it's like, well, okay, we got one of these. So you got to be really careful when you're dealing with. I'm dealing with people that are really, really attached to their cars. You pick up on it. Got to, it's some people are like that with their kids, some with animals, some people are with their cars. So, anyways. So let's talk a little bit about how does a car get totaled? Okay, does anybody know? What determines whether if it goes to the body shop? What determines if it gets fixed or gets totaled? Rick?
Damage more than what the car is worth.
Okay. Same thing. Okay. Cost more to fix. Makes sense, right?
I was going to say it costs more to fix it than the cost of fixing and salvaging.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Does anybody know where do you draw the line? How do you determine whether at what point is the car totaled?
General rule of thumb, about 80%.
Okay. Yeah. And that's a good answer because it really varies. It could be. Yeah. Every insurance company looks at it a little bit differently, but generally 70-80%. There have been a couple times where we've gone up over the 100% mark, and that's been due to a vehicle that came in and we started repairs on, which we got the okay from the insurance company, and due to circumstances that nobody knew about, we were already so deep in the job that we had to finish what we were doing, and so it just didn't make sense to backtrack and total at that time. So a few times it's gone over what the vehicle is worth, but generally speaking, that's why it's really important as a shop owner to do a real thorough estimate when a car comes in, because we don't want to put the insurance company in a position where they're paying more for a vehicle than the vehicle's worth. So obviously older model cars, unless it's like a classic like Rick has, are going to total easier. I've seen cars that come in and they tell me what they have, they describe the damage, and although I always want to come in and see it, pretty much tell right off the bat, okay, this is going to be a total. If it's a, Buick Century, good example, and it's an older car, and so the value is just not going to be there, and body shops charge what they charge, and it's just not a simple procedure to fix small things sometimes. So, okay. So if your car does get totaled, what's a fair compensation for it? Is it what you think the car is worth?
Don't they go off the Blue Book?
Off Blue Book? Okay. All right.
So you prove it's worth.
Okay. All right. Do some people maybe think that their car is worth more than it really is?
Everybody. Every time.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Different companies have different policies where you can pay more to buy you a brand new version versus the market value of the one that you
Very true. And your insurance agent could probably hook you up on that. There's,
Probably right.
yeah.
Just fluff.
Yeah.
It costs you more money.
Barry.
In buying a new car, it's wise to get gap insurance. from
Yes.
the insurance company because they pay the difference between the market value as soon as you drive it off and what you actually pay.
Could be a really bad situation. If your car gets totaled, what Barry is describing is negative equity. You owe more on the car than the car is worth, so you get it totaled. We've had people come in our shop and they're like, do not total this car, whatever you do. We don't want it totaled. We owe more than it's worth. We're going to end up not having a car and still paying on a loan. So to avoid that, well, don't get in an accident. But if you do, maybe it's not even your choice. If you have gap insurance and your insurance agents can hook you up on that, it's a good way to go, especially on newer cars. Okay, so
It's not up to you if it gets totaled.
it's not up to me?
Yeah, most of the time.
No, it's not. It's up to the insurance company, but the insurance company is just going to basically look at the numbers. And somebody else pointed out that there's other circumstances that can be brought out as far as, what's that?
Like, they can fix it through structural integrity.
If you have like expensive tires and wheels on the car, if you've put extra, had your engine rebuilt, things like those are things that can be considered. Also, the condition of your car. If your car is in really poor condition, it's not going to help, if determining whether it's going to be totaled or not. Do you have a question? Oh.
I have a
Good.
quick question. Have you ever experienced like someone gets into an accident and they think they can fix it themselves and they realize they can't, and so now they bring it in claiming that it was like an accident. So it's like they've made it worse, but they're trying to they're trying to fix it themselves, but
We've seen everything. Yeah, I'm not opposed to people. I mean, to be honest with you, I started out doing that myself. So, I mean, I'm not opposed to people trying to fix their own cars if they're capable of it. And matter of fact, if it has some damage that needs special tools, then I'm even open to people that want to do it themselves to bring it in, and we'll get it lined up so that when they go to put the parts on, they actually fit. So, but that's a good way to go if a person is going to do it themselves. So, is there any questions on about what determines a car getting totaled? Pretty much value, and a couple things determine the condition of the car, blue book value, like it's almost like they'll do the same thing they do with houses. Okay, if you're getting an appraisal on your house, we just had one done recently, and they'll take houses in the area and determine based on similar houses what your house is worth. They do the same thing with cars. So if you have a real obsolete car, it might be a little more difficult. But generally speaking, most people, the insurance company doesn't necessarily want to total the car. The owners usually don't want to total the car, but sometimes it's reality. It just is what it is, and that's the answer to the equation. So what do you do with a car that gets totaled? Okay, there's a few options, a couple things you can do. Cry. Okay.
We kept one.
You kept one?
Yeah, it wasn't that bad.
Okay.
A friend of ours was driving it and somebody ran the stoplight and hit the side. So
Okay.
the insurance company wanted to total it, but it's the only car we had at the time. And if they would have totaled it, we asked, well, how do we get it back? And they wanted us to buy it back from them for a certain price. And
So is that what you did? Okay. So there are several options if the car gets totaled. It's not the end, like, oh my gosh, my car is totaled, they're taking my car and I don't have a choice in any matter. I don't know what to do. You do have choices, and if you're ever confused about it, just call us at Center Collision. We can help guide you through it, because it seems like every situation is a little bit different. And we might even tell you, you know what, let them take the car. Because number one, the things I was going to point out here, they're willing to pay you money. Okay, so if your car gets totaled, now if you turn it into your own insurance company, whatever your deductible is going to be deducted from what you get. Okay, let's just say it's a $5,000 car, and I've even, to tell you the honest truth, I've even seen it where people thought they had a $3,500 car, and guess what? The insurance company is going to pay me $5,000 for it. Take the money, okay?
yeah.
Not a problem, okay? So, if you have a deductible, then you might only get $4,500, but still you're feeling pretty good. Keep it and fix it. That's what you said, right? Okay. So, do you want, it's your car. Do you want to, if you don't want to get it total, if you have that sentimental attachment to it and you feel like you're never going to find another one like it, it just depends. How bad is it total? Did it get some scratches on it? Did it flip upside down and slide down the freeway and catch on fire?
Partly with licensing and license a salvage car.
Okay. Yes, we haven't got that yet, but yes, they will. Well, since you brought it up, okay, yeah. If you do decide, and Susan, this is probably what you had to go through too. Okay. If you decide to keep your car and you work it out with the insurance company, and usually they're going to be willing to work with you either way. I haven't really seen insurance companies, this is what you have to do. It might come across that way sometimes, but there are some options. If you decide to keep it, you do need to understand that there is going to be a few things you have to go through. One of them is they look at it as like you're starting over. If you buy a total vehicle, or if you retain a total vehicle, you have to reapply for a title, and you also have to get inspected by the state. 4 months? Okay. So, something to consider. Sometimes it totally makes sense. It really does to keep the car, and we're pretty good to bounce questions off, situations like that, because sometimes we'll tell you just let it go, and other times like, well, let's take a look at it. Does it make sense? If it doesn't make sense, we're going to tell you that too. Couple other options is keep it and don't fix it. Well, okay, I'll give you an example of that. We had some friends, somebody scraped their car or something like that. The insurance company came out, wrote an estimate for them. They had me go out and look at it. I said, yeah, you got to scrape down the side of the car. And they asked me, it didn't even go through the paint. So it's not going to rust. And they had kids in school, and they're just, okay, well. So we have a little scrape on the van that really doesn't bother us. They want to give us, it was like $3,500 to compensate us for the damage on the van. And, they asked me, do we have to fix it? It's like, no, it's your car. You can do whatever you want with it. I prefer people fix cars sometimes because, otherwise we might run out of work someday. But no, you don't have to fix a car. So if you're okay with it, the insurance company, you just be straight up with them. Hey, we appreciate you paying us for the damage. We're going to choose not to fix the car. It's your option. Okay. This is another one. Keep it and sell it yourself if you wanted to. To me, that'd be a big hassle. But some people say, yeah, I'm going to keep the car. All these parts are worth so much money that, I'm going to part it out myself. Okay, whatever. But wouldn't suggest it, but that's an option. So I used to do a lot of totaled cars when I first got into the industry. I don't know, we're almost out of time here. But I found that it was selling them is the hardest part. And when you have a title that says rebuilt on it, it's not real appealing to people like, oh, it's been rebuilt, so they don't know if this car is really up to the standards that they're going to be comfortable driving or putting their family into. Also, it's sometimes hard to borrow money against them because credit unions and banks, they're like, okay, the car is totaled. Well, they're reluctant to do it. Okay, so yeah. But I've done several myself. I totally trust our shop. I know what goes on in there. And some of you guys remember, about a year ago, I bought a truck that was totaled. It's a 2013 Dodge Ram. And it got totaled because it had frame damage. And we had to put a new box on the back of it. So it made sense for me because I could buy it cheap. And only had like 3,000 miles on it. So, yeah. So anyways, I bought it. We sectioned the frame on it, and really the frame is only sold in one-piece unit from the dealer, but we bought a piece from and that's why it got totaled, because they weren't allowed to do what we did to it. But I know what we did is safe, and I'm not concerned about that. But that's the reason it got totaled, because of the frame. But we sectioned the frame. We didn't just straighten the heat and dolly and hammer and Bondo fix it like that. We actually cut a part of it, got it from another vehicle, and sectioned it in there. Anyways, Barry. We did. Yep. So if you ever wonder what a total vehicle looks like after it's all done, look out the window. because it was right there. It's that orange Dodge truck. No, it's been sitting around my lot.
The replacement in the shop last couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So, anyways, after the meeting, you guys are welcome to walk around it and see. Stand behind our work. We have a lifetime guarantee. But that truck was totaled. It still has 3,500 miles on it, simply because I just chose not to drive it. So, you have a question?
I don't know if you've heard of this before, but I was going to buy a 2000 Grand Cherokee Limited for like 20 grand, because it had been totaled. But it was totaled it was in a train wreck. It was on the way to the first dealership from the manufacturer.
So no miles, probably.
No, not really. And it had tipped over and slid, so a couple of those glasses broke, and they had to replace about every panel on it just about to get it back up. And I was all ready to do the deal, and the Department of Motor Vehicles would not register the vehicle because evidently it doesn't make it to the first dealership. They're the ones that take responsibility for safety. And if you don't have that, then the manufacturer will not say it's safe. And so they ended up, he had to ship the cars to the toll booths.
Wow.
So
So,
you can build your own car.
Is that where they sent the paper from?
so I know we're out of time. So, last thing I want to say is the word totaled is a real broad term. So, always look at the situation and decide what's best for you. And if you have any questions, come see us.